Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2, Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are playing on Stir River as the Dark Elves against the forces of the Empire. So, I don't really play that much Dark Elves to begin with, and going in against Empire I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. But eventually I decided, I'll go infantry heavy. Empire doesn't have the best tools to crack Dark Elf infantry, as long as I'm able to shut down, the Empire shooting. And I didn't bring any cavalry, so how to shut down shooting, I decided, I'll try some Reaper bolt throws and see how they can work out. I also did bring Malekith on a cold one. He's my lord. You can see he's a decent melee combatant. He'll basically outfight most of the Empire lords actually, because he does have very solid melee stats. He's got okay armor, silver shield or bronze shield, sorry, almost 4,000 HP, which is of course augmented by Soul Stealer. You can always replenish a little bit of your HP. I did bring the Destroyer because I think that's a rather awesome ability. I used to not like it at all, but now if your opponent doesn't pop his abilities before he enters this zone around you, you're going to be able to basically just shrug it off and charge in. So I also did bring the Supreme Spell Shield because I figured, I might be able to deny my opponent some winds of magic if I'm able to get in close against his infantry mob and Malekith's in the thick of things, which is likely because he's a decent melee combatant as we discussed before. Of course I do have Spiteful Conjuration, the buff that, or the enemy debuff that comes with Lord of Shadows or Lord of Darkness, and it actually procs even if you cast Power of Darkness, which makes it a rather valuable sort of debuff. I do have Soul Stealer. I also do have Chill Wind to beat up on squishy units. Gaze of Malice, which is a decent sort of damage ability that he's got bound, and of course Stand Your Ground. For the rest of my army, I actually did bring out an assassin somewhere in here, a Canine Assassin, and I figured this guy might be able to kind of help zone away some of my opponent's shooting. He's got short range at 70, but if he's able to dash in close, he might be able to get a burst off and maybe damage, say, Outriders or Outriders grenade launchers a little bit, especially if my bolt throwers aren't able to zone him away. I also did bring him with Assassin's Trophy, Black Dragon Egg, and the Web of Shadows, so all around some pretty decent abilities here. Black Dragon Egg is, I wanted to test it out against squishy infantry, see how it would do against Empire, and we'll definitely see how things go. Assassin's Trophy, of course, great. Web of Shadows also decent, but you have to have enemies near your assassin, so that's a bit of a limiting factor. For the rest of the army, front line of two spears here. I did put them up in the front next to the bolt throwers to cover them against large, but at the same time without committing. I figured if my opponent had any artillery, I'd be able to counter battery them with the Reapers, but I didn't want my the first infantry being in range to be my elites who are near the back. Two Organic Executioners should be able to smash through anything Empire puts on the field. They'd have to bring a lot of great swords to beat Organic Executioners. Some Blackhawk Corsairs to stiffen things up a little bit, just to provide some additional support and anti-infantry and squishy troops, which helps to make enemies go berserk. And 2 units of Blackheart of Nagron. These guys, once again, they'll outtrade, say, great swords pretty effectively. They're immune to psychology, pretty effective overall. You can see my opponent did have some mortars. They're immediately teeing off on my Reapers, but my Reapers, in their own right, are starting to fire on his Outriders. The grenade launchers who are up here on the hill. You can see some of those poor guys just getting smashed into by those bolts. And they're having a very bad day. You can see actually some stuff gone through the dirt here, but those bolts, and it's actually a bundle of bolts if you look at it, are just plowing in and really giving these guys a bad day. In the meantime, for the rest of my opponent's army, sorry about that. Interesting choice of Lord here. You can see he did bring a General of the Empire, and the General of the Empire is coming in with the Runefang, so huge boost to damage, but of course he doesn't have great melee stats to begin with, so we'll see how well that does, and then Foe Seeker for that extra vigor and mobility. You can see in the meantime my bolt throwers do get a few more shots into Outriders, and my other bolt thrower will start teeing off on the mortar. My opponent also does have an Empire Captain with the Sword of Anti-Heroes as well as Foe Seeker, so once again pretty mobile, and then a Lure of Light caster up in the sky, and this guy's pretty roided up. You can see he's got Birona's Time Warp, which is a great little spell that I think a lot of people ignore, and personally I think I prefer the Foz protection, but it's a decent spell as well, and I think it's one that people kind of avoid. Power Stone, definitely very solid, of course, and Net of Mintox, with the usual sort of Lure of Life shenanigans there, or Lure of Light shenanigans. The mortar in the meantime is getting shot up, but I'm not able to land hits on the guns themselves, so not too great for me. The rest of my opponent's army, though, some great swords which are already being shelled away at by the artillery pieces. A front line of spears with shields and some vanilla spears in there, mixed in there as well, probably to cut costs. And then a back line, you can see some more spearmen with shields, Reichsguard, Outriders with grenade launchers, and silver bullets. So Outriders with grenade launchers, one of those niche units that I was surprised to see. You almost never see this when you're playing. I tend to use these guys a lot, but I don't see many other players use them, and I'm not entirely sure why, but they're a very powerful unit, and we'll definitely see how they do against Dark Elves, against Dark Elf armor here. Reichsguard, of course, pretty powerful. They would lose to Cold One Knights, but Cold One Knights are a risky pick against Empire. You can just make them berserk with black powder weaponry, and then you're in trouble. In the back, my opponent does have some Zintler's Reichsguard, and While those guys are not sort of charging out, they've been vanguarded forward. My opponent has a very nice potential setup to dive in and attack my Reaper Bolt Thrower if I move past it, or flank and be a nuisance there. So regardless, though, the bolt throwers are firing. They haven't actually managed to kill much of anything. They haven't even taken out a model. But my opponent's mortar, of course, is a terrible counter battery weapon, and it's losing crewmen rather quickly to those bolts. So it's gonna be in a bad spot fairly shortly. It should soon lose enough crew to where it can't be operating all of its guns. And you can see more and more darts just flying in and clobbering those crewmen. You can see decapitating or separating that guy in half. Finally do lose a mortar, full gun, and these guys are simply going to rout up from the field. In the meantime, feeling rather confident, I've been kind of scooting my Reapers forward, using them as a little bit of a support artillery piece, and moving my infantry forward. I do start firing the grape shot mode onto the great swords here, trying to get some damage, and you can see it does rather immense work. Of course, these guys are stationary and a bit of an easy target there, but not an optimal. They're not kind of boxed up or anything, so definitely it's doing rather well. And if we look, and you can see here I'm pushing the bolt throwers forward, wanting to get a more ideal spread. And if you look at the anti-infantry mode, you can see the damage is actually pretty crazy. It's only got armor piercing damage of 8, but the bonus versus infantry is 8, so you got double damage. Essentially, or almost double damage, thanks to that bonus versus infantry versus mobs of infantry. So it makes the scatter shot incredibly potent against these sorts of troops. You can see here more shots flying in. I can't see the silver bullets, but they're being clipped in the process as well. These great swords definitely not having a good day. And it's actually going to rout these mortars a second time, which is bad, because one more time, and I do believe these guys will shatter for good. So definitely some artillery fire just raining hell down on these poor Empire troops. I did see my opponent pull his Reichsguard into the flank here, but I still haven't actually spotted these Zinthler's Reichsguard. I simply wasn't paying attention. I didn't scout that backline, and so that could potentially be rather bad. As the rest of my army does push forward in spears, against Reichsguard not ideal. I also made a bit of a mistake pushing forward with my Witch Elves when I really should have kept them back here, ready to jump on anything that plows through. And of course, spears can't fight Reichsguard. They can't win in a drawn-out, atrocious fight, much less stop them from just plowing through and destroying an artillery gun battery. So either what you're going to see here is me pay the price for some foolish mistakes, and shortly my opponent's Zinthler's Reichsguard is going to break cover and make a dash for artillery. Over on the flank here, you can't see the bolt thrower shots still piling into this Reichsguard and doing a fair bit of damage, because Reichsguard, of course, is large. They're pretty big targets. They lost about 4 models there, so definitely some good stuff. And definitely getting some value there. Unfortunately, I'm not able to block these Reichsguard. You can see I'm trying to pull the Dread Spears in last second, but the Reichsguard is making its run, and Zinthler's boys are definitely going to make him proud. Now over here, because my opponent no longer has artillery, I don't have to worry about taking my sweet time positioning my infantry, so I'm kind of trying to get a little bit of a concave going around this corner, because I don't want to blob up right over here on the approaches. However, my opponent gets a little greedy. He pops his abilities, and he does decide to dive in against Malekith. And Malekith, of course, as we discussed before, is no pushover. I did try to hit these guys with chill, with a. I hit him with the bolt throwers. I tried to hit him with the chill wind, but it's just not enough. They still plow through. They're getting hit by the spears, but they're tearing this Reaper apart. And really, I should have tried to ditch the guns and move to a flank, move to the spear mob, but mistakes were made. Over here, the General Empire does get surrounded by Blackguard. He's getting beaten down by Malekith, who is, of course, a much more superior combatant, and, of course, can replenish his health, unlike the General Empire, who has no Lore of Life or anything supporting there. My opponent does get a little greedy here, drops his captain in there. At this point, my Witch Elves are on their way back, because I've realized that, dang, I didn't push him forward. So over here, the Empire General is having a terrible day. He's getting torn apart by the mob of Blackguard, by Malekith, and he's being forced to flee rather unceremoniously, getting very little done. In the meantime, the Zinthler's Reichsguard is posturing a little bit here. I'm trying to just kind of shuffle the bolt thrower away. You can see it's actually lost the gun on the charge there to the captain, so definitely some rough stuff for me, but we're trying to trundle it away while jabbing that Empire captain down slowly with our spears. And my opponent is kind of not feeling it here with the Zinthler's Reichsguard. Decides not to really charge in against the spears. The spears get a little bit of a charge there, perhaps a little bit of jabbing action, but not much done. Now for here, this is where things get rather grim. You can see this volley of grenades just cascading down from the high ground, and they're going to start exploding in amongst my Blackguard and Nagrod. And of course, these guys are very tanky. But still, you can see that HP pool just dropping from that nasty volley of grenade launchers, and we're just going to see these guys sort of melt here, trapped on this corner, to the power of Empire explosives. And this is really a major mistake on my part. I do drop a Gaze of Malice on these guys, trying to do a bit of damage to them, but I just don't have the tools to stop them. And this was a major mistake on my part. I should have brought some Dark Shards. That would have been a huge boost against these guys, but I didn't. So I'm paying the price here. I do try to get this guy into position, the Canine Assassin, to snipe away. I'm using my bolt thrower from the low ground to try to snipe away at the Outriders as well. My opponent here does push some spears in against the Canine Assassin, and it's just trying to pressure me a little bit. He's got a net of a Mintok down there. I do hit a Soul Stealer over here, which perhaps a little premature, but it is going to hit all these spears, so melt them down. And in the meantime, my opponent does dive in with the General, who's popped his Rune Fang, and definitely some rough stuff here for the Canine Assassin. But I do hit him with the Web of Shadows in turn, which is going to start melting his HP away. The Canine Assassin, of course, hits him. Again, he's going to hit him with the Assassin's Trophy, and this guy is in for a very bad time. And you can see he's getting absolutely annihilated here in the pits. And then Malekith there does dive in to absolutely Goomba stomp him with his cold one. And oh my goodness, I don't even know where the poor guy's gone. He's dead here somewhere, unceremoniously killed by a very, very angry Dino. So it's rough stuff for my opponent. Over on the flanks, you can see my Witch Elves have rampaged the captain, and he's getting beaten down here in the pits. The bolt thrower is still online, and my opponent doesn't have the tools to shut it down. He's not willing to push his Reichsguard in, and he's seeing this collapse here in the front line. He's finally trying to get his cavalry in there to try to help break this up. Now, unfortunately for me, though, those grenade launchers are still raking in massive amounts of damage. They're not high in kills here, but they're doing a lot of damage. You can see over here Chillwind doing immense work to these silver bullets. Just huge. You can see several thousand HP there, I think, done to these poor guys, and really kind of showing how powerful it is against lightly armored troops. And of course, those debuffs to armor will help, say, the Blackheart Corsairs hack their way through the Spearmen. They'll even help the AP infantry a little bit. Over here, Malekith does get a little bit of damage on these Outriders, kind of zoning them away. You can see my Assassin here trying to do some work, but my opponent here gets some good shots out from the silver bullets, though I do kind of swat him away with a Gaze of Malice. But what I was really trying to do is get my Assassin into those Outriders with grenade launchers. I'm just not able to do it. I'm not able to get close enough, and the Assassin's short range is definitely letting me down. Meantime, Bolt Thrower is teeing off on these Reichsguard. You can see the captain is basically getting slaughtered here in the pits. He has popped Foe Seeker at some point, but obviously he's rampaged. He's going to rout, but he's just taken so much work. He hasn't really gotten much done, and it's definitely been a bit of a waste for my opponent. In the meantime, though, on the flank, definitely some rough stuff. The Canine Assassin getting slaughtered. He's not able to get his shots in, and my opponent, of course, has me beautifully blobbed up here. I'm going to hit him with another Chillwind, trying to wipe out these squishy infantry. I'm not really able to do much to the greatswords, but, you know, I figure if I can beat these spearmen out, I'll be in a good position. Unfortunately, though, and I actually do pop the Power of Darkness here on the Assassin, draining his life away to get myself some more Winds of Magic. But my opponent, in his turn, starts raining hell on me once again with those explosives. You can see those poor Blackheart Corsairs with their lower armor are going to suffer immensely. Even the Hargan Executioners, despite being buffed by Murderous Prowess and all that, are going to get slaughtered pretty badly. And you can see those grenades just arcing in and doing some immense work. And these guys have almost gained a Chevron, and they've gained 35 kills in just the space of a few seconds. On the periphery, you can see the captain still being pursued. He will probably get up in the air, but he's gotten horribly mauled. These spears over here are pushing up. At this point, there's only one artillery piece to defend, so I'm kind of pushing these guys up to try to help. In the meantime, we are firing away. The bolt thrower is trundling. I'm not even sure what I was trying to hit the Reichsguard with the bolt thrower. Big mistake on my part. I should have simply fired at the Outriders with grenade launchers, because they were really the unit that was changing the tide here. Now, unfortunately, the Canine Assassin here does get caught by the silver bullets, who are regrouped, and he's going to get pounded pretty bad. He's very susceptible to that sort of focus fire, as anybody is, and so I'm going to try to pull him back. You can see him just barely crest behind that hill before he gets torn to shreds by that black powder weaponry. And for my opponent, his infantry line's finally going to fall apart, but not before the Blackheart Corsairs get slaughtered, not before my Hargoneth Executioners are on their last legs. Really, at this point, it's just this unit of Blackguard and Malekith holding things together, because the rest of this army is in the tank. On the flank, of course, there's still some Witch Elves, there's still some Dread Spears. The Bolt Thrower at this point is all alone, though I'm trying to use my Spears to kind of zone these Reichsguard away. And I'm trying to use this Bolt Thrower to kind of tee off on the grenade launchers and whittle them down. Unfortunately, you can see I'm just not able to rack up those kills on those grenade launchers, and it's really punishing me pretty horribly as they arc over and do some immense work. I'm already up to 68 kills, and all against rather valuable units, which on a unit that only costs 800 HP is definitely a valuable sort of investment. But I have managed to chip away most of their models at this point, so that's definitely working out in my favor. In the meantime, though, my opponent is kind of committing his captain. Here, trying to save my assassin, I start firing on the captain, sniping away with that bolt thrower. There's only 2 guns left, but I figure, you know, might be able to save my Canite boy over there. We are trying to get around the flank. My opponent's silver bullets just sitting around there, and those I'm keep trying to snipe these guys down with Chillwind and with Gaze of Malice, but it just isn't doing the work. And you can see these over here Reichsguard do get routed off, so good little win for me. And at this point, it's definitely looking rather good for my army, but nonetheless, you can see these Blackguard here rather low, these Blackguard here. If my opponent was able to sort of chip me down, get these silver bullets in firing position, there's still 34 of them, still some great swords. If he could get a Barona's time warp in here and provide some buffs to these troops, get them on top of my mob of infantry here, you could potentially smush this blob of heavy armor pretty effectively. Though at this point I'm not entirely sure my opponent really has any solutions to the Malekith and this mob of high HP units in the back. Nonetheless, you can see the Outriders here kind of trying to get into better positions, get into better firing positions, trying to arc around, but they are down to 14 models at this point, so in a very, very weak position. My Canine Assassin is not coming back, but these spears over here are pushing through. You can see Malekith here running around the flank. Another Gaze of Malice does go down, killing one Outrider, so Gaze of Malice is very good against squishy infantry, like say Silver Bullets, or Spearmen or anything like that, but it's just not very good against Outriders with grenade launchers who do have a decent HP per model. And despite my best efforts here, I'm just not able to pick off more than, say, a model per cast. And, it's just some rough stuff for me. I really should have gotten this bolt thrower working a little sooner on these guys and kept them working there instead of focusing on peripheral heroes. But nonetheless, it doesn't really matter here in the end when my opponent's army simply shatters. So, a few lessons learned from this game. Always expect some sneaking. Always be wary of sneakiness. Playing a lot against Empire, who doesn't have too many Vanguard options. It's really only Zintler's Reichsguard, Outriders, and Free Company Militia has gotten me pretty spoiled. Generally, I don't worry about Vanguard builds from Empire. And that is Zintler's Reichsguard rolling out of the nowhere to completely steamroller a Reaper Bolt Thrower. And they could have had my opponent been a little more aggressive. They could have knocked out both Reaper Bolt Throwers and perhaps changed the course of that entire game there. And that is something I simply didn't think through, and I didn't think about. Similarly, not focusing firing the grenade launchers was a major mistake on my part, and this resulted in them raking in immense kills and just completely pounding my blob of infantry here, helping their greatswords rack up an immense amount of kills, and helping them kind of trade somewhat effectively, given they were way outmatched by these high elf infantrymen. For that said, definitely I think this build is reasonable. I definitely think Canine Assassin didn't really pay for himself. He got 52 kills, but Black Dragon Egg didn't really rake in any kills. There was no crazy cast or as many, and I got all my casts off of Black Dragon's Egg, and not a single one really paid for it. Was particularly useful. Personally, I think that I would have been much better off investing in a unit of Shades or a unit of Dark Shards, maybe even try to cram in 2 units of Dark Shards into this army to get some more mobile ranged firepower. But and that's despite the fact that Canine Assassin here did get 52 kills. He did definitely help beat down the General, because the General got a little greedy going after him, but I still didn't really feel the results. I didn't really think it was worthwhile, and I think I would have gotten much more out of 2 Dark Shards. For the rest of the army, Malekith, of course, doing great, and I think I've been getting more and more warming up to the idea of Malekith mounted on a cold one instead of the Dragon. Seraphon's not bad, but against Empire especially, you can bring some nasty shooting, and my opponent really didn't bring that much nasty shooting here, but Empire can have multiple handguns against you, and they'll annihilate you with black powder if you bring a dragon in a lot of cases. So I think it's not really worthwhile, and in that situation, I think Malekith on a cold one is perfectly good. It gives you that mobility, gives you that AP, and at the same time doesn't make you a huge, easy target. Spears didn't really get much done. They couldn't really shut down the enemy cav, and was a little disappointing, honestly, and but at the same time, you know, what can I want to expect? They did tie down the captain for eternity with the help of the Witch Elves. Witch Elves, these 3 units basically never fought, so not much to say there. The Blackheart Corsairs, though, did some good work, and of course the mob of heavy infantry did some good work, so definitely some good stuff there. For my opponent's build, I don't think this was that bad of a build, to be honest. I think this was the idea was sound. But I think the biggest problem that this build faced is, well, actually a few little problems. The mortar's not bad, but I would generally invest at least a handful of chevrons in it to get some more accuracy. I've been experimenting with full 9 chevron mortars. I've been experimenting with sort of 5, 6 chevron mortars, stuff like that. I think you definitely want some mortars in there, or some chevrons in there. Unchevron mortars are far too inaccurate, I think, to be effective against Dark Elves. Second little point would be that my opponent didn't really bring a source of damage that could really crush heavily armored infantry. Obviously, the Outriders did well, but it's because I blobbed up a whole bunch and played rather poorly there. Had I been more on top of simply rounding that corner, not getting blobbed up, those Outriders would have gotten much less use, and my opponent would have been relying essentially on his silver bullets and great swords to crack my armor, and that's definitely not, I think, a position you want to be in. So I think that getting either some demigriffs in there, or an additional unit of handguns, or Outriders, or something like that is not a bad idea. Finally, I'm not really a big... The captain, I think, is in general, I don't think Empire should be doing goon squads. I don't think it really works for the Empire, especially not against Dark Elves. I think it would have been better for my opponent to bring Boris on a horse with his debuffs, and then an Empire Cap. If you really wanted an Empire Captain, bring him on foot. Lord of Light, not bad. Not bad choices. I would have tried to get Frost Protection in there, but not a bad build at all. But the Empire Captain, I think, on foot and drop the General of the Empire in favor of Boris, I think this would be a much better option. But regardless, good game to my opponent, Afan here. I do hope you guys enjoyed. I do hope you found it entertaining and perhaps found it informative. As usual, if you have any comments, criticism, anything like that, be sure to share them down below, and I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. As usual, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.